Yes, sure. I will do that, Mataji. Adhascha urdhang prasritasya shakha.
Adhaschordvam prashratastasya shaka.
Guna pravritta vishaya prabala.
Guna pravraddha vishaya pravalaha.
Adhascha mulani santani.
Adhascha mulanya anusantatani.
Karmanubandhini manushaloke.
Karmanubandhini manushaloke.
Adhaschodvam prasthatastasya shaka.
Adhaschordvam prashratastasya shaka.
Guna pravruddha vishaya prabala.
Guna
Guna
pravraddha
pravritta
vishaya
vishaya
pravala.
prabala.
Adhashta mulani anusantatani.
Adhascha
Adhascha
mulani
anusantatani.
asusantatani.
Karmanubandhini manushaloke.
Karmanubandhini
Karmanubandhini manushaloke.
manushaloke.
Adhaschordvam prashratastasya shaka.
Adhascha
Shaka.
shaka.
Guna pravraddha vishaya pravala.
Guna pravritta vishaya prabala.
Adhascha mulanya anusantatani.
Adhascha mulani anusantatani.
Karmanubandhini manushaloke.
Karmanubandhini manushaloke.
Adharshorvatham prarattastasya shaka.
Adhaschordvam
Adhascha
prashratastasya shaka.
shaka.
Guna pravrittaha vishaya pravalaha.
Guna
Guna
pravraddha
pravritta
vishaya
vishaya
pravala.
prabala.
Adhascha mulani anusantana tani.
Adhascha
Adhascha
mulanya
mulani
anusantatani.
anusantatani.
Karmani anubandhahini manushaloke.
Karmanubandhini
Karmanubandhini manushaloke.
manushaloke.
Adasya Urta Prabhuta Shakaka Guna Prabha Vishaya Prabhala Adasya Mulani Santadani Karmanuvandini Manushaloke. That's a nice tune. Anyone else? You want to chant it?
No,
Everyone else chanted.
that's okay.
Word for word.
The word for word?
Yeah.
That's the word for word, yeah. Adaha,
Adaha.
Adha.
Adha.
downward.
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 Ka,
Downward.
Cha.
and.
Even.
And.
And.
Drum,
Urdhavam.
Urdhavam.
upward.
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 Prashrita,
Prasrita.
Prashitaha.
Rashitaha.
extended.
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 Tasya,
Tasya.
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 Its.
It's.
Is.
Shaka,
Shaka.
Kaha.
branch.
Branches.
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 Guna,
Guna.
Guna.
by the modes of material nature.
By the modes of
The modes of material nature.
Pravriddha,
Prabhitaha.
Pravrittaha.
developed.
Developed.
Vishaya,
Vishaya.
sense objects.
Sense objects.
Object.
Pravalaha,
Prabalaha.
Pravalaha.
twigs.
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 Adaha,
Adha.
Adaha.
downward.
Downward.
Ka,
Cha.
and
Then.
And.
Mulan,
And.
Mulan.
Mulani.
roots.
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 Nushantatani,
Anushantatani.
extended.
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 Karma,
Karma.
Karma.
work.
To
Work.
work.
Anubandhini,
Anubandhi.
Anubandhini.
bound.
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 Manusya Loke,
Manusya Loke,
Manushaloke.
in the world of human society.
In the
the
world
world
of
of
human.
human society.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. The tree also has roots going down, and these are bound by the fruitive actions of human society. Purport. The description of the banyan tree is further explained here. Its branches spread in all directions. In the lower parts, there are the variegated manifestations of living entities, human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats, etc. These are situated on the lower parts of the branches. I think you could shut that fan, it makes too much noise. Whereas on the upper parts are higher forms of living entities, the demigods, Gandharvas, and many other higher species of life. As a tree is nourished by water, so this tree is nourished by the three modes of material nature. Sometimes we find that a tract of land is barren for want of sufficient water, and sometimes a tract is very green. Similarly, where particular modes of material nature are proportionately greater in quantity, the different species of life are manifested accordingly. The twigs of the tree are considered to be the same, considered to be the sense objects. By development of the different modes of nature, we develop different senses. And by the senses, we enjoy different varieties of sense objects. The tips of the branches of the senses, the ears, nose, eyes, etc., which are attached to the enjoyment of different sense objects, which are attached to the enjoyment of different sense objects. The twigs are sound, form, touch, and so on, the sense objects. The subsidiary roots are attachments and aversions, which are byproducts of different varieties of suffering and sense enjoyment. The tendencies toward piety and impiety are considered to develop from these secondary roots, which spread in all directions. Put on the other lights. The real root is from Brahmaloka, and the other roots are in the human planetary systems. After one enjoys the results of virtuous activities in the upper planetary systems, he comes down to this earth and renews his karma or furtive activities for promotion. This planet of human beings is considered the field of activities. Okay, I'll read the verse again. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the furtive actions of human society. I was going to read the first verse again. Not again, but for today, first verse. It was read yesterday. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas." So, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivase Sasimi Radhikashti Chadve Sattva. So does anybody have any questions? It's difficult for me to understand this.
I was just going to say, oh, this was really simple.
That's why I asked if you have any questions. I figured we could just go on. It's perfectly clear.
Talking about a bunch of twigs and branches, roots. What's there to understand?
What more do you need to know? But instead of being watered by water, this tree is watered by the modes of material nature. And then you have any questions on that? I don't understand.
The branches are all our indriyas. Indriyas means our eyes, our nose, our tongue, and all this.
That's not the branches. That's the twigs, I believe. The tips of the branches, the very ends of the branches, are the senses, the ears, eyes, etc. The ends of the branches, not the themselves.
And they're the leaves are the sound, beauty,
I don't think so.
touch, and all the indriyas. Indriya means all the senses.
Okay. Anyway, there's this. I believe this is an imaginary tree that just to try to understand how this whole universe is working, and indicate that the human societies is where the karma is created. Like in animals, there's no karma, and apparently in demigods there may not be karma. I don't know, but that's what it seems to say here.
Yeah, the twigs say it's the sense objects. That means the ones that objects that we're enjoying, and the tips are our senses.
Say that again?
The tips are our senses. The twigs are the sense objects themselves.
No, what is like comes from sukha and dukkha? That means from happiness and sorrow.
Happiness and
that's the infatuation, asakti.
So here we can understand that this material world, there's this up and down. People are going up, people are coming down, and then people are going back up and back down. It's this whole cycle of samsara. And this tree is in the material world, and everybody is somewhere within this tree at a particular time. Sometimes we may be in the human society, the cat society, dog society, hog society, demigod society, and we're in different parts of this tree at different times. But in the human society is actually the best place to be, even though you're creating karma, even though you're not enjoying like anything on the heavenly planets, even though it's not spiritual like on the topmost planets, that everyone is meditating on Vishnu or Krishna or Narayan. It's still better to be in this human society because it's so easy from this human society to go back to the spiritual world, back home, back to Godhead. We just have to hear and chant about Krishna. And there's no, and in Kali Yuga, it's very special because the potency of the holy name is even more powerful, and you're not held accountable for your mental offenses, where in human society in Satya Yuga, if you think something bad, then you get a bad reaction. That creates bad karma. In Kali Yuga, if you think something bad, that you don't get bad karma because you don't have much choice. It just seems to happen quite often. But if you think of good things, you actually get good karma. And in Satya Yuga, you think of something good, you don't get anything good because everybody thinks positive things. But so we're very fortunate. We only have a short time here in this particular body, and we can get out of this banyan tree, this upside down banyan tree altogether, and we can go back home, back to the spiritual world. This description is only of the material world, and how the material world can be imagined as this great upside down banyan tree with all these different parts representing different parts of the material world. I'm not, I mean, honestly, I don't understand too much about how this helps one to surrender to Krishna. But I guess for certain people who are very interested in the how things run, how things work, how the whole material world is working, they may find this very interesting, and it's a good meditation because you can meditate on this, and it's transcendental. It's, even though it's material, just like the universal form, it's really a material form, but it's also transcendental because it's representing Krishna. So we can meditate on this form and think of things. And by doing so, we're actually thinking of Krishna, because Krishna spoke these words. He's describing these to Arjuna. I mean, this is on the battlefield. They have two armies on both sides, and he's describing about this imaginary banyan tree. You know, he kind of, you know, and Arjuna is very, he's not like us or like me, where I'd be thinking of, you know, okay, why are we talking about this? You know, why, should I fight this war? Shouldn't I fight this war? You know, but I'd like to hear some others who can explain more about how this is, you know, pure Krishna consciousness. Of course it is, because it's spoken by Krishna. You know, Krishna's words. And it is because it helps us to understand, if we can understand it, how this whole universe works and why we don't want to come back again into this samsara cycle. We don't want to go back up to be the demigod. Even the king of heaven. The king is a great position. You know, even in this material world, if you're the king of some country, that's very powerful. You have so many people, sometimes they worship you, because you can worship the king if it's actually a Rajasi, he's actually a saintly king, which they used to be in Vedic culture. And you know, everything, they give gifts to the king, they treat the king like any great. Imagine being the king of heaven, in the heavenly planets where everything is great, even for the lowest person in heaven is enjoying way more than the greatest person on this earthly planet. And yet you can be the king there. And what's the value of it? It's just temporary, just some phantasmagoria. It just puts in more illusion. Even Indra was he was attached once. Anyway, he was cursed and he became a hog or a pig. And then he had a little wife piggy. I think her name was Piggy. And then they had little piglets. Piglet 1, Piglet 2, Piglet 3. And he was very happy and satisfied. And then Brahma said, okay, now you can come back to your post as king of heaven. And he said, no, I don't want to leave my wife and my children. You know, I'm happy here rolling around in the mud. So then some arrangements were made for his wife to get slaughtered by the farmer and for his children to be slaughtered by the farmer. And then he realized, yeah, this is not a really good place at all. And then he finally went back to being the king of heaven. But even the king of heaven got it so attached to his material situation as a hog, and he didn't want to even go back to his position as king of heaven. This material world, you can get attached to. Like Prabhupada says, you can be a pauper and be attached to your penny. So this material world, if we understand how it's working, it may help us more to do what we have to do to get out of it and go back to the spiritual world, and where we can live eternally full of knowledge and bliss. So,
and also it says that this human world is this material world is the our workplace.
Yeah, Ganpati Govind, do you have any comments?
I think the point, that's the whole point of this, is wherever you go on the tree, whether you go up or down, it's still a reflection, and that there is a real tree.
yeah, everyone hear Jiva, or do I got to repeat her? Did anyone hear Jiva?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jiva said that it's a reflection, right? No matter where we go.
Right, and on this material world, on this material tree.
So why invest so much energy in the reflection? Better to invest that energy in the genuine, in the non-reflection, in the real thing.
And the reality, not the illusion. This is a very elaborate illusion.
But there's an interesting statement there that aversion and attachment are the same thing, and piety and impiety. You want to comment on that, Pyari?
Well, I don't remember reading that, but I can comment on it because it is a fact that attachment and aversion are both, different sides of the same coin. Whether I'm attached to something, I'm attracted to it, or I'm adverse to it, it's the same thing. It means I'm attached. If I'm attracted to it or I'm averse from it, they're both signs of attachment. It's like whether I find something very pleasurable or I find something very distasteful. We should be equal to all. It doesn't matter. What's the difference? What is it? Another verse in here of what is it? I don't know if it says in here, blade of grass, some plot of land or rocks, or they sees it all the same. See, those are not exactly the words, but I can't think of them right now. But he sees all different objects as the same. Diamonds, the same. It doesn't make any distinctions. They're all the same. It's all the material energy. And if you look at it even scientifically, all it is a whole bunch of electrons, neutrons, and protons. That's it. Everything is basically that. Even the scientists are saying. So if you see a diamond or you see stool, they're both electrons, neutrons, and protons. I mean, that's materially speaking, that's all it is. But yet somehow I'm more attracted to the diamond than I am to the stool. But really, in reality, there's no difference. I mean, no difference in what they're made of. So similarly, all this material energy is just Krishna's energy. We shouldn't make distinctions. This is better than that.
So you're saying aversion is another form of attachment?
Yes. Attraction and aversion are both signs of attachment. You get somebody, some very renounced devotee who, when he, if he looks at a woman, he spits at that thought, he's averse to it.
But he's thinking about it.
And that one devotee said once, whenever I spit, I think of woman. Which is like, whatever I do, I think of woman. But they're
So,
both,
but attachment should be for Krishna. And can't you have aversion for something that's not?
yeah,
Krishna?
yeah. Just like you can, we should, Prabhupada's named Abhay Charan, fearless, for taking shelter of the holy name. But he's not completely fearless. He's afraid of falling into Maya. So there's fear, but he's not afraid of anything. Not afraid of any people with guns, bombs. Not afraid of anything because he's taken shelter of Krishna, and it's up to Krishna. Krishna wants me to live. Nobody can kill me. If Krishna wants me to die, nobody can save me. I'm a soul surrendered unto Krishna. So he has no fear, but he's still afraid of falling into Maya. So similarly, we can dovetail the propensities we have. Like we want to dress up really nice, and we want to, make ourselves look really nice. As you can see, I have a nice beard. I forgot to shave. But no, but so we can dress the deities nice. Use it, not worry about these dead bodies. We have to see these are just the dead bodies. Only because my soul is in it that there's anything happening with this body. I had a talk with someone today, just about with Bhakti Tirtha Swami and Prabhupada. Well, Bhakti Tirtha Swami was a black devotee. He was a sannyasi. He was a guru, very advanced devotee, very humble devotee. I known him since he was a brahmachari, and he told Srila Prabhupada once that devotees, now we can understand where there's discrimination and racism in the material world, but he was saying devotees were like discriminating against him because of the color of his skin. And Prabhupada's answer was, if you are disturbed by it, you're no better than them. So I was just talking to this devotee and explaining my understanding of that is, if you're disturbed by it, that means you're on the bodily platform. Why should you care? Another place, Prabhupada says humility, he said honor or dishonor pertaining to the body is useless. Doesn't matter if you honor me or you dishonor me, pertaining to the body. It's meaningless. I'm not the body. So if somebody says, thinks something of me because I have a black skin, then that's their ignorance. If it bothers me, that's my ignorance. But I'm not this body. I'm the soul. I would think you can think that this poor soul is so much an illusion. He thinks that we're these bodies.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for explaining, and have a nice night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Bye.
Bye.
So this whole bodily concept of life is what has to be given up. We have to transcend that. When we know we're not this body, then what are we attached to materially, or what are we just repulsed by materially? It doesn't matter. Makes no difference. Whatever Krishna wants me to do, I do. Krishna wants me to clean a sewer, I'll clean a sewer. What's the big deal? I remember just a little incident at the old temple. No, the new temple. The sink was clogged. The water's not going down. And it's all dirty water in there. And I just went and I reached in and I pulled out the junk that was in there and threw it in the trash. And some devotees were like, wow, like, how can you just do that? It's like, it's got to be done. What's the difference? You do it. I certainly didn't think anything about it whatsoever. So we shouldn't make all these distinctions. Whatever is necessary for Krishna's service, we should just do it and not be adverse to it and not be attached to any particular service either. Whatever Krishna wants. I want to be a pujari. I want to do this. Oh, I want to lead kirtan. So I want to give class. These are the things I want to do. And I don't want to clean. But Krishna's temple is dirty. Prabhupada said, do the needful. You see something needs to be done, you do it. So that's the attachment and aversion. We shouldn't make distinctions based on the body.
On that note, Srila Prabhupada one time in Mumbai saw somebody mopping the floor incorrectly, and he actually got down on the floor and showed him how to do it. He didn't think like, I'm a guru, I can't do that.
Well, he certainly did in the beginning. He did everything.
Everything, I know.
All the cleaning, all the washing the pots. Everybody just came, listened, and ate and left. And he cooked everything, and then he cleaned everything.
But
I mean,
this whole thing, this is even later,
Well, he certainly didn't mind doing it anytime.
Yeah, Prabhuji, we have a story of Krishna himself, like after victory of the war, when Yudhishthira did the yagya, Ashwamedha yagya, the Krishna himself took the responsibility of picking up all the leftover when Brahmins are sitting together and eating the food. So he cleaned all the ground, and he himself did that. There's a story of that also. Krishna himself took this responsibility. Everyone has different, but he told you this, I'll be doing this task.
Yeah.
Krishna certainly,
He was Arjuna's charioteer, and he actually cleaned the horses' feet in the stables.
Correct. That also he does. He did.
Yeah. And fed them whatever they needed to be fed.
he washed Sudam Brahman's feet.
Yeah. So Krishna showed us how humility should be practiced. What did you say?
And Krishna is his body.
But it's funny that you should say this chapter is for intellectuals. This was one of my father's favorite chapters. He was an intellectual.
I didn't say it in those words, but yes, it seems to me. I don't understand the whole working. Some people have those kind of minds. They need to know. Like,
right.
I go to the doctor, they give me some medicine, I take it, and some other person goes, gets the medicine and wants to know, what is that medicine actually doing? How does it work? I don't really care. It just works. That's all. I'm satisfied with that. So it depends how much you need to know. I guess it's just simple. But Krishna is satisfying everyone. So everyone can be satisfied intellectually, if they're very intellectual, and if they're not, they can just understand it, just the basics of it. This particular chapter, or at least about the banyan tree here. So we have more time, but I don't really have much more to say, and I don't think I'm going to read the next verse in purport because that's too long. Anyone have any other comments or questions on anything?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, you mentioned that in Kali Yoga, if we think about something bad, mentally we'll not commit any sin. However, if we think about anything good, we'll get the good result. Did I understand you correct?
Yes.
Okay, but in Gauranga pastime, we saw that I think Pundarik Bidyanidhi, he was like a king and he was enjoying all those material opulences. And same thing for Ramananda Rai. They were enjoying like anything, but they were rendered as a high devotee. On the other hand, Chota Haridas, like he was such a nice devotee, but one time he thought about something like sensual pleasure, just thought about it, and Lord Chaitanya gave him up and gave up his association.
No, that's not what happened. First part is correct. Whereas if you think of something good. Now these devotees, they weren't attached to all the sense gratification. It's not, apparently they're enjoying sense gratification. They didn't care whether they had it or they didn't have it. They were not attached. They were attached to Krishna or to Lord Chaitanya. Just like Pundarik Bidyanidhi went, and then he just like, what did he roll on the floor? He didn't care about anything. They were not enjoying sense gratification. It looked like they were enjoying sense gratification, because if it was me, I'd be enjoying sense gratification if I was in that position. But they were not. They were not enjoying. And Junior Haridas, he didn't just think something or say something. He said something to a woman. Now, the woman was an elderly woman. She wasn't like a young woman. And he was just inquiring something. It wasn't anything bad. So he really didn't do anything bad. But Lord Chaitanya wanted to stress how you shouldn't talk to a woman. And he used Junior Haridas as an example. And it wasn't Haridas Thakur, Junior Haridas. And he set this example where after that, none of his sannyasis would have anything. They were so afraid to look at a woman, to talk to a woman, to have anything to do with a woman. And not because they were adverse to it. They wanted to please Lord Chaitanya, and they didn't want to displease Lord Chaitanya. So their whole motive was just Lord Chaitanya. And they seen that he wasn't happy with Junior Haridas.
Are you saying it's a pastime, Pyari, just like Krishna put Arjuna into illusion and that kind of a thing? Just to speak the Bhagavad Gita. So was the Chota Haridas pastime also a pastime to show?
Anything wrong? Maybe he did something a little wrong, but it was like nothing. Some sannyasi talking to an older.
Yeah, by our current standards, nothing. Yeah.
What?
By our current standards, practically nothing.
By our current standard, it is absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But
in those standards, I guess.
Lord Chaitanya wanted to set a standard for the sannyasis, and he used Junior Haridas as an example. And of course, Junior Haridas and gave up his life and became a ghost and was with Lord Chaitanya. No?
Not a ghost, Gandharva.
A Gandharva, not a ghost, sorry. A Gandharva. But was always chanting to Lord Chaitanya. So he was associating with Lord Chaitanya, but with a subtle body.
But Gandharvas are subtle bodies? Oh, okay. They are in the higher planets, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, he was very happy with his situation, getting this personal association of Lord Chaitanya and pleasing Lord Chaitanya by chanting, beautifully chanting.
Thank you, Prabhu. So just a follow-up question. So if I,
so that
can you hear? Yes. If I lay down on my couch and just think about how to serve Pyari Prabhu, Jiva Mataji, and other devotees, but don't do anything, will I get the good fruit?
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're thinking about that, this is what I'd like to do these things. and you can do them, then you do it.
But
You
if
know,
I don't do it, if I just think about it,
well, it's better than thinking about other things.
Well, thinking leads to acting. Isn't that also true in the Bhagavad Gita? It says that somewhere.
Willing.
Yeah, thinking leads to, yeah, willing and acting eventually.
Willing, and then once you're willing, you're already acting.
You're already acting. So keep thinking.
thank you,
Right.
Mataji.
Let me know how you're thinking about me. But it's that reminds me a little bit about, you can offer a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, and Krishna will accept it. Prabhupada gives the example that if you're wealthy and you make yourself these beautiful feasts and you offer Krishna a leaf or a flower, that's not the point. The point is, if you can't do it physically, you don't have any money. So there was this one devotee who heard this story that you can perform devotional service even in your mind. And he was just really poor. So then he decided to offer things in his mind. And he went and he got water from the Ganges. And in his mind, he got water pots, gold water pots. And he got silver water pots. He got water from the Jamuna. He got water from all these different rivers in his mind. He's going through the whole thing in his mind. And he's even, what was it, Brahmachari, who did it in his mind, was making the road for
Narsimha Brahmachari.
the Brahmachari. So in his mind, he was making a road for Lord Chaitanya to go. And in his mind, the road only went up to a certain point. And he said, Lord Chaitanya is only going to go up to there. He couldn't go any further. So this other devotee was offering all these things in his mind, making a beautiful food, getting nice vegetables, very first class everything in his mind, cutting it up in his mind, cooking it, offering to Krishna. And he was doing this every day after he heard a lecture that you can do this. And he was meditating in this way. And one time he made sweet rice in his mind. And sweet rice, it's hot, but it's best to serve cold. So he wasn't sure if it was cold enough to offer. And he put his finger in the sweet rice and he burnt his finger. When he burnt his finger, his meditation broke. And he looked at his finger and it was burnt. And simultaneously, when this happened, Vishnu is in the spiritual world, surrounded by goddesses of fortune. And then he starts smiling. And they want to know, why is he smiling? And then he brings this devotee to Vaikuntha. And he tells the story about what happens. And then he went back to the spiritual world. So that was as good as actually doing it. But he couldn't do it. But if you can do it and you just meditate on it, you're not going to get the same benefit.
One thing though, everybody keeps saying that he stuck his finger in the sweet rice.
Oh.
But a Brahmin wouldn't do that. He touched the pot, and the pot was hot. He
Oh,
burnt his finger.
he touched the pot. I heard he stuck his finger in it.
I just heard it today.
Okay,
Nectar
we're going to
Devotion.
read it. I got to
Nectar
read it.
Devotion.
Get the Nectar Devotion. See if we can find it before the end of class. We only got 9 minutes left. But anyway, in any case, whether he touched the pot, I also thought it was wrong. Why would he put his finger in it and then offer it to Krishna?
Because the fingernails are dirty.
Okay. That's what I was thinking. But I thought he's a simple guy. He didn't know better. But I thought he put his finger in it. At least I thought that's what I read. But in any case, so if you can't do anything for whatever material impediments are there, you can still do it in your mind and you'll get the same benefit. But if you can do it, you shouldn't just do it in your mind.
See where it is.
Looking back, the index. Okay. So that was a good question. But I think it's still better, even if you know, when you're laying down and you're thinking of something good, even if you could do it, but you're not, it's still better than thinking of something bad. Any other questions on anything? My brother-in-law once said, I can answer any question. So I asked him a question and he answered it, but it was the wrong answer. He said, I never said it would give you the right answer. He can answer the question though.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this is Ganpati Govindas. Can you hear me?
Somebody's saying something, I can't hear him.
Oh, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you hear me now?
No.
Yeah, better.
Can you speak louder?
Can you talk louder? Couldn't hear the mic or something?
I am speaking to the, like, right in the speaker. Can you not hear me good?
I can't hear you, but maybe someone else can and they can tell me.
Not as well, yeah.
Find the story.
Okay, 1 second, Prabhuji.
Quick, look online. Okay.
What's she writes?
Is it any better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, so Prabhuji, yesterday, I'm sorry, it's not a question, it's just a comment. If you're okay, can I say something?
Well, sure.
Okay, so yesterday when I was giving class, I did mention that there is a reference to this tree analogy also in the Bhagavatam in the 10th canto, second
Reference-
chapter.
The tree.
Oh, the tree,
Analogy.
okay.
Analogy.
So, and I wanted to read it yesterday, but somehow I forgot about it later when I was done with the class. If you are okay, can I read that now?
I think Krishna had you forget about it so you can fill in today's time.
Only if you're okay, Prabhu. If you're not okay, that's fine.
I'm fine, that's good.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu, 1 second. I'm just pulling it up.
This is terrible index. The other one. I'm gonna be right back, less than a minute.
Okay, so this is from 10th canto, 2nd chapter, 27th verse. The body, the total body and the individual body are of the same composition, may figuratively be called the original tree. From this tree, which fully depends on the ground of material nature, come two kinds of fruit, the enjoyment of happiness and the suffering of distress. The cause of the tree forming its tree roots is association with the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. The fruits of bodily happiness have four tastes: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, which are experienced through five senses for acquiring knowledge in the midst of six circumstances: lamentation, illusion, old age, death, hunger, and thirst. The seven layers of bark covering the tree are skin, blood, muscle, fat, bone, marrow, and semen. And the eight branches of the tree are the five gross and the three subtle elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. The tree of the body has 9 hollows: the eyes, the ears, the nostrils, the mouth, the rectum, and the genitals, and 10 leaves, the 10 airs passing through the body. In this tree of the body, there are two birds. One is the individual soul, and the other is the super soul. The efficient cause of this material world, this is text 28 of the same chapter. The efficient cause of this material world, manifested with its many varieties as the original tree, is you, O Lord. You are the maintainer of this material world, and after annihilation, you are the one in whom everything is conserved. Those who are covered by your external energy cannot see you behind this manifestation, but theirs is not the vision of learned devotees. So in these two verses, there is an analogy of the tree used. It's a little different and different from what is described in the Bhagavad Gita, but it has many similarities also. So I
No,
just sorry, Mate, you were saying something?
no, it's explained really well there, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a good explanation. And Prabhupada has given a very nice purport also for this verse. It's a pretty elaborate purport. So I don't think we have time now to read that. But he explains this very nicely in his purport in 10.2.27.
And he touched the pot.
Yeah, and that Brahmin touched the pot. Actually, I don't know how much time we got, like 2 minutes. I'll read this to you. Oh, well, it might be too long to read. Well, I'll tell everyone where it is, and you could read it yourself. I'll start reading. It's from the Nectar Devotion, Meditation, in my book, chapter 9, page 92, but there's so many different books, it may not be the same.
I think it's chapter 10.
Chapter 10, she thinks. In some of the Puranas, the evidence is given that if someone is simply meditating on devotional activities, he has achieved the desired result and has seen face to face the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this connection, there is a story in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana that in the city of Pratishthanapura in South India, there was once a Brahmana who was not very well to do, but who was nevertheless satisfied in himself, thinking that it was because of his past misdeeds and by the desire of Krishna that he did not get sufficient money and opulence. So he was not at all sorry for his poor material position, and he used to live very peacefully. He was very open-hearted, and sometimes he went to hear some lectures delivered by great realized souls. At one such meeting, while he was very faithfully hearing about Vaishnava activities, he was informed that these activities can be performed even by meditation. In other words, if a person is unable to actually perform Vaishnava activities physically, he can meditate upon the Vaishnava activities and thereby acquire all the same results. Because the Brahmana was not very well to do financially, he decided that he would simply meditate on grand royal devotional activities. And he began this business thus. Sometimes he would take his bath in the river Godavari. After taking his bath, he would sit in a secluded place on the bank of the river, and by practicing the yoga exercises of pranayama, the usual breathing exercises, he would concentrate his mind. These breathing exercises are meant to mechanically fix the mind upon a particular subject. That is the result of the breathing exercises and also of the different sitting postures of yoga. Formerly, even quiet, ordinary persons used to know how to fix the mind upon the remembrance of the Lord. And so the Brahmana was doing this. When he had fixed the form of the Lord in his mind, he began to imagine in his meditation that he was dressing the Lord very nicely in costly clothing and ornaments, helmets, and other paraphernalia. Then he offered his respectful obeisances by bowing down before the Lord. After finishing the dressing, he began to imagine that he was cleaning the temple very nicely. After cleaning the temple, he imagined that he had many water jugs made of gold and silver, and he took all those jugs to the river and filled them with the holy water. Not only did he collect water from the Godavari, but he collected from the Ganges, Jamuna, Narmada, and Kaveri. Generally, a Vaishnava while worshiping the Lord collects water from all these rivers by mantra chanting. This Brahmana, instead of chanting some mantra, imagined that he was physically securing water from all these rivers in golden and silver water pots. Then he collected all kinds of paraphernalia for worship, flowers, fruits, incense, and sandalwood pulp. He collected everything to place before the deity. All these waters, flowers, and scented articles were then very nicely offered to the deity to their satisfaction. Then he offered arti, and with the regulative principles, he finished all these activities in the correct worshiping method. He would daily execute similar performances in his routine work, and he continued to do so for many, many years. Then one day, the Brahmana imagined in his meditation that he had prepared some sweet rice with milk and sugar and offered the preparation to the deity. However, he was not very satisfied with the offering because the sweet rice had been prepared recently and it was still very hot. And in brackets here, this preparation, sweet rice, should not be taken hot. The cooler the sweet rice, the better its taste. So, because the sweet rice had been prepared by the Brahmana very recently, he wanted to touch it so that he could know whether it was fit for eating by the Lord. And as soon as he touched the sweet rice pot, so he didn't touch the sweet rice, as soon as he touched the pot with his finger, he immediately was burnt by the heat of the pot. In this way, his meditation broke. Now, when he looked at his finger, he saw that it was burnt. And he was wondering in astonishment how this could have happened, because he was simply meditating on touching the hot sweet rice. He never thought that his finger would actually become burnt. While he was thinking like this, in Vaikuntha, Lord Narayan, seated, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, began to smile humorously. On seeing the smiling of the Lord, all the goddesses of fortune attending the Lord became very curious and asked Lord Narayan why he was smiling. The Lord, however, did not reply to their inquisitiveness, but instead immediately sent for the Brahmana. An airplane sent from Vaikuntha immediately brought the Brahmana into Lord Narayan's presence. When the Brahmana was thus present before the Lord and the goddesses of fortune, the Lord explained the whole story. The Brahmana was then fortunate enough to get an eternal place in Vaikuntha in the association of the Lord and his Lakshmis. This shows how the Lord is all-pervading in spite of his being locally situated in his abode. Although the Lord was present in Vaikuntha, he was present also in the heart of the Brahmana when he was meditating on the worshiping process. Thus, we can understand that things offered by the devotee, even in meditation, are accepted by the Lord, and they help one achieve the desired result. And I'd like to say I read that many years ago, and when I told it pretty accurately, except I told that he touched the sweet rice and he didn't. He touched only the pot. So, any questions? I went over time, but I think it's a nice story. And that's the Nectar Devotion. Everyone should read the Nectar Devotion. Some comment?
Well, so I guess for Janmashtami, even if you can't come to the temple, we can cook a big feast, huh?
Yeah, you could cook a big feast. You don't have to make
In reality.
Yeah. Okay, let's offer our obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Vanchakopa.
Panchakalpatarubhascha
Kapasya